Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to my channel for another INART figure preview video. Before we begin, I want to say a massive thank you to Matthew for going out in person, for snapping these pictures, as well as these intro videos. Show Matt some love in the comments, because without him, this video literally wouldn't be possible. Now, he did the best that he could with what he had to work with. Unfortunately, the lighting at the booth wasn't fantastic. It was both warm and cool, thanks to the overhead lights and the spotlights, and it was green and purple tinted once again because of the two different light sources. So very hard to color correct for. You'll just have to bear with us throughout the course of this video. If you're looking to pre-order either Legolas, the Nazgûl, or the Deluxe Nazgûl, I've popped some links to Pop Collectibles in the description below. For full transparency, they are affiliate links, but any commission earned will be reinvested back into the channel and put towards making new content. I've also included the discount code Justin's Collection in the description for 5% off your order if you do decide to buy from them. As always, do your own research, make sure you're comfortable before buying. Now, you all know me. I'm not the biggest Lord of the Rings fan out there. I'm more of a casual fan, I guess. I've seen all of the Hobbit films and the Fellowship of the Ring. I watched that back when I did the Gandalf and then the Aragorn videos, so I knew what I was talking about. I haven't watched the subsequent two films. It's just hard to find that amount of time to set aside to watch those movies, especially with a young baby at home. Anyway, I'll get around to it eventually, but this is Legolas from the first movie anyway. So he comes with a bunch of different little bits and pieces. No exclusive accessories this time, unlike what we saw with Aragorn and what we're going to get with the Nazgûl, but we'll discuss that a little bit later. The detail on this quiver alone is crazy. The middle portion is sculpted plastic. That's how they were able to capture all of that leather grain texture and the multiple different styles of finishes with the gold and the green and the little red bits and pieces. There's a wash top and bottom to make it look slightly dirty, and you can take the arrows out of it. The straps are probably made of genuine leather, because I highly doubt that they're going to be using pleather on anything with this. They know full well that collectors just cannot stand the shit, and I happen to be one of those collectors. No pleather, please and thank you. So he has a few different options for his outfit. We've got the green cloak, which is probably what I'm going to be using. It's more of a cape, really. And then this brown, almost velour-looking robe, like a velvet, a crushed velvet. Not something that I'm ever going to be using. It's this cape or bust for me, and considering they've used the same thin, lightweight, textured fabric that they used with Aragorn for Legolas, they're going to have matching capes, they're part of the same fellowship, that just makes sense. Let's discuss the display base. So, I'm not sure what to think of it, because it looks fine, like the footprint is similar to what we received with Gandalf and Aragorn, but they ditched the magnets. Instead of making the entire top surface of the base magnetic, or just a metal plate so the magnets in the feet would do their job properly, they said, nah, no magnets, no crotch grabber, no flight pole, nothing. No extra security whatsoever. At least that's as far as what I've gathered from their pre-order announcement. I've not seen a crotch grabber, or any other kind of secure way to attach him to the base for that matter, and that's simply not good enough. For a figure of this price point and this quality level, he needs to be secure on that base. The issue was never really the magnets, it was the looseness of the ankle joints, because figures were falling forward. My Joker has fallen forward a couple of times actually. So they need to beef up the magnets, switch out the underside of the top plate for just a metal panel, and that would probably do it. If Caustic Plastic and Slice to Loan Shop can get this done, INART surely can as well. It feels like they're throwing a little bit of a tantrum. They're probably not, but that's how it comes across to me. They're saying, oh, well, you're continuously complaining about the magnets, so let's see how you fare without the magnets. We've taken them out. Now your figures are probably going to fall over a hell of a lot more often than they were before. I don't love that. They need to spend a little bit more time working on the figure to base attachment method, because what they were doing in the past wasn't fantastic, and this certainly isn't the right call in my personal opinion. Let me know what you think about this whole situation down in the comments below. Either way, it's not figure breaking, well, it will be if he falls over, but joking aside, it's just something to be aware of. They've got plenty of time to work this out prior to this guy releasing. The bow looks great. It's big. We've got this real elastic string around the back for arrow shooting poses, but do be careful, because elastic strings on bows tend to loosen up over time. I would like to see a second string, a replacement one, included in the box, just in case this one starts to get floppy, if you've had him pulling it back in a dynamic pose for a while. The gauntlets look like sculpted plastic to me. I could be wrong, they might be real leather, but the embossed detail work screams sculpted in versus being like imprinted, or not sure how they do that sort of stuff really, but the belt is a proper material piece that is not sculpted plastic. His outfit is layered, just like what we saw with Aragorn. We've got a couple of different bits and pieces of different coloured and different textured fabrics on top of one another. The lighter green, then the darker green. You can see the silver pinstriping on the shirt part and also on the sleeves. Plus, underneath all of it, that lighter blue collared shirt that splits open around the front to reveal his neck and his collarbone. We'll get there when we discuss the head sculpt. I just realised we haven't yet discussed his hands, and I'd be doing them a disservice if I didn't, because INART are, in my opinion, best in class when it comes to 1/6 scale hands. Skin texture, detail, paint applications, the array of gestures like this one with the thumb sticking out to hold his bow, perfect. The only complaint I have with their hands is the magnets, they didn't work, so they ditched that. Then the chonky wrist pegs make switching hands a little bit tricky without a hairdryer, the ones they used on BVS Superman, so that's something to keep in mind. Then the ones that they used on Harry Potter were breaking, so they're yet to figure out the perfect solution for what an INART wrist peg should look like. Let's discuss this killer head sculpt. It's stunning. Like, all the way around, I can see the Orlando Bloom likeness. And thanks to the long hair coming down over the front of his torso, you can use those hair strands to disguise the seam. You can see it just under his earlobe there, between the head sculpt and the neck underneath it. They haven't done that at the convention, but you can grab a few of those strands, bring them slightly further forward, like that, thank you. On this side, they have done it, so that's what I was talking about. Now he looks entirely seamless from head to toe, from every angle. The hair braid is actual braided artisan quality wool hair, and the eyes can move. So Legolas, very impressed so far. Proportions, head sculpt, hair, incredible. Let's talk about the Ring Wraith / Nazgûl. Really cool looking figure, but there's not much to him. We've got some hands, some switch out swords, but one of them is a store exclusive, but unless you're in the countries that they have the license to sell in, you're not going to be able to get that exclusive sword, unfortunately. So if you can order direct and grab that sword, and that's something you absolutely must have, then just go for it. There are two versions of the Ring Wraith. We've got the Deluxe and the Standard Edition. The difference is one comes with the horse on its display base, and the other simply doesn't. You're just getting the Nazgûl on its own. I know the correct number of these is supposed to be 9, the full set if you wanted to complete that, but we only get this one static pose for the horse. It is not articulated. I would have liked to have seen like an A, B, and C version of the horse. That way, if you did want to buy multiples, you wouldn't have the exact same horse in the exact same pose 9 times in the collection. So I would suggest, unless you really like the pose that this horse is in, perhaps just get one horse, and then the other 8 Nazgûl, they can just be the standard edition, and that way you're not going to have identical horses. The display base works in the same way as Legolas's. No magnets, and as far as I can tell, no crotch grabber, no feet pegs, nothing. You just have to get him to balance and hope that nothing ever happens and he falls over. Oh, and very quickly, we get some armored hands. The detail is sharp as on them. Speaking of sharp as, unplanned segue, that sword, the one with the ring around the back of it, on the end of the blade, that's the exclusive. The sword that he's holding currently and the one, the smaller, like, dagger behind this, they're included with all versions, as far as I can tell, of the Nazgûl. And we've got the sword at the front as well. The blades, probably real die-cast metal, because they did that with Aragorn and they did that with Gandalf, so I don't see them changing that for the Nazgûl, because I like a good 1/6 scale die-cast sword as much as the next collector, as long as the wrist pegs are strong enough to keep the sword upright without it turning to the side due to the heavy weight of it. That's another thing that they can work on. Let's discuss the Nazgûl's horse. It kind of looks a bit nasty. You can see that grossness from underneath the horseshoe on that leg at the front that's been lifted, and some spikes sticking out of it. The back leg that's also being lifted genuinely makes it look like this horse is walking or galloping forward. There's a decent amount of detail for the fur, sculpted in, of course. There's shading and washes in the crevices, and some real die-cast bits and pieces for the straps and buckles and chains connecting the front armor piece for the horse to the saddle and also the stirrups and the reins, which I'm hoping are all made of genuine leather, because the last thing we want is degrading straps on our Nazgûl's horse. We want these things to stand the test of time, and the way you do that is either making them out of rubbery plastic, which is an option, or using genuine leather, which I'm thinking is probably the way they're going to go. The pose works for me with the horse, but like I said just a second ago, I would have liked to have seen an A, B, C variation of the horse, because it's just a sculpted static thing. You could have very easily modified the sculpt in ZBrush or whatever the heck you're using to incentivize us to collect multiple horses, because collectors kind of do that. If there's a line to complete, we're inclined to want to complete the line. People would have collected A, B, and C just to make sure they have all of the different horses. And it would have been a single piece mold. It wouldn't have cost that much to give us some variation in the horses' poses. The real hair for the mane and the tail, a nice touch. It's looking a little bit wiry right now. Maybe that's because it's a dead horse and they wanted it to look slightly nasty. That's okay. But some styling may be required. I've never styled hair on a 1/6 scale horse before, but there is a first time for everything, it seems. The Nazgûl itself, he's covered in fabric robes head to toe, just these tattered, disheveled, heavily textured, worn-looking robes. Please let them be wired. They absolutely need to be wired, because there is so much fabric here. If we're just relying on gravity and the grit, the grippiness of the texture of the fabric itself to keep the bits and pieces in place, it ain't gonna happen. It's gonna be an absolute nightmare to work with. Gandalf didn't have wired robes. Aragorn's outfit was also not wired, but Superman's cape was, so there is precedent for them using wires in fabric outfits. Everything here needs to be wired. The ends of the sleeves, the top of the hood, the little bits that stick off the main body of the cloak so they can be billowing in the wind if he's sitting on his horse. Just wires absolutely everywhere. If they want to include another robe that's not wired, that just hangs naturally and perfectly because they've stitched the hood in place perhaps, not a bad option. The main one needs to be wired. I think y'all will agree with me on that. Another one that I'm going to turn over to you. Let me know down in the comments, do you want wires, or is that something that you just simply don't care about? I asked Matt to bump up the brightness. I'm sorry, it looks a bit washed out, but I was trying to see what's underneath the hood, and as far as I can tell, there's no head sculpt under there. It's not like there's a black sculpt just underneath the hood. It literally comes across as though there's like a substructure on the inside at the back part of the hood, but then the front is a hollow space. So it gives us the effect of there not really being anything inside of this outfit. These are wraiths, after all, so that makes sense to me. At the end of this, I'm excited for both, of course, but I'm most excited for Legolas because he's iconic. I mean, you think Lord of the Rings, you think Gandalf, you think Aragorn, but you also think Legolas. He's top of mind for a lot of people. Even before I'd seen Lord of the Rings, I knew who Legolas was. If you're looking to pre-order either of these, and the Nazgûl comes in 2 different versions, I've popped some affiliate links to Pop Collectibles in the description below. As always, do your own research, make sure you're comfortable before buying. I've also included the discount code Justin's Collection in the description for 5% off your order if you do decide to buy from them. While you're down there, why not hit that subscribe, bell notification icon, and join button if you like the sound of seeing your name in the end credits of my reviews. Like, comment, and subscribe. We'll catch you in the next video.